So there, I was Darren, a man who had it all. I mean, I wasn't a braggart, but I figured anyone looking in from the outside would reckon. I was sitting pretty 40-something years old, top dog in my own enterprise, a cozy house in a nice neighborhood, and most importantly, a woman by my side that I had happily spent nearly half my life with, Carla. She was a beacon that lit up even my gloomiest days. That's why on that day, the chilliness of the mid-March seemed to fade away as I exit the plane, my suitcase dragging behind me on the tarmac. I had come back 2 days ahead of schedule from a business trip, and it wasn't just to escape those droning board meetings. You see, it was almost our 15th wedding anniversary, and I had a surprise in store for my better half. I still remember the first time we celebrated our union. We were young, starry-eyed with dreams as big as the moon. We promised to grow old together. And 15 years later, we were doing just that. I was all excited about how she'd react. Would she jump into my arms, bury her face in my chest, her cheeks blushing the way they did when she was pleasantly surprised? Or would she smack me on the arm for not telling her earlier? Only to pull me into a kiss. Moments later, as I steered my car down the familiar lanes towards our suburban home. My mind was a whirlwind of anticipation. As I parked the car in the driveway, I glanced at our house. It was quaint, with a neat little front yard where Carla spent most of her weekends. Our house was more than just bricks and mortar. It was filled with love, laughter, shared dreams and memories. I picked up the bouquet of sunflowers from the passenger seat. Her favorite, a symbol of our love. As I walked to our front door, I imagined the surprise on her face and the anniversary evening that awaited us. I didn't know then, but that evening was going to change my life, and not in the way I'd hoped. As I turned the key in the lock, the sound that go through the silence of the afternoon, the house was unusually quiet. Carla always had music playing or some sitcom chattering in the background. Breaking the stillness, a sudden rush of cold air hit me as I opened the door. The silence, the emptiness, it sent a shiver down my spine. My instincts telling me something was off. I called out for Carla, my voice echoing through the eerie silence, bouncing off the walls of our home. No response. I thought she might be out, maybe running errands, but her car was in the driveway. So I headed upstairs, the bouquet of sunflowers slightly wilting in my tight grip as I neared our bedroom. I heard it, the low murmur of voices and the unmistakable sound of laughter. The cold dread settled in my heart. There was Carla, my Carla, in bed with another man, a stranger. The world around me began to spin. A bolt of pain shot through my heart, leaving me breathless. The sight of them, their naked bodies entangled, was a dagger to my heart. The room was filled with their laughter, their pleasure, horrifying to my ears. Blinded by rage and disbelief, I lunged at the man, the stranger who was violating my home, my bed, my wife. The next moments were a blur of punches and cries. The stranger, caught off guard, was struggling to ward off my punches. A few minutes later, there was a loud bang and the room flooded with light. In the doorway stood Carla, a terrified look in her eyes and phone clutched in her hands. I heard her crying, talking to someone. Her words incomprehensible through her sobs. And then I understood she had called the police. As the blue and red lights flashed outside my house, my world came crashing down around me. The police, their stern faces impassive, handcuffed me, ignoring my pleas, my explanation. I wasn't the intruder here. I was the victim, but it was as if my words fell on deaf ears, locked in a cold, sterile cell. I was alone, truly alone. For the first time in 15 years, the pain was overwhelming, but it brought clarity in the solitude of that jail cell. My decision was made. I was going to divorce Carla. Even with the bitter taste of betrayal in my mouth, the decision was gut-wrenching. Carla wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend, my confidant, my partner in all things life. But the woman I loved, the woman I believed in, wasn't the woman in that room with the stranger. The Carla I knew was gone. As I sat there on the cold, hard floor of the cell, the image of Carla with that stranger seared into my mind. I knew that this was the end of the life I had known, the life we had built. And so, in the loneliness of that jail cell with the echo of my heartbreak as my only company, I prepared to face my new reality. The days ahead were going to be hard, but I was ready because I knew no matter how difficult it was going to be, I could not spend another day with the woman who betrayed me. Jail. It's not like anything you could ever imagine. It's not just the iron bars or the unforgiving hard bed. It's not just the bad food or the glaring fluorescent lights that never seem to turn off. It's the silence, the emptiness that gnaws at you from inside hour after endless hour. I wasn't a hardened criminal. I was a businessman, a husband who let his emotions get the best of him. But here I was wearing the same orange jumpsuit as every other man in this place. The humiliation was the hardest to bear. Days turned into weeks and slowly I found a routine. I did my time in the yard, ate my meals, kept to myself. The betrayal was like a constant dull ache in my chest. I had lost my wife, my love, my trust and my freedom. All in one swift stroke. I started reading in the jail library, immersing myself in books about law, psychology and philosophy. I began to understand the magnitude of what I'd done, my mistake. I let my anger control me, let it define my actions, but it wasn't too late to change. The more I read, the more I understood the trail is painful, but it's not the end. It's a beginning, a chance to start over, to forge a different path. And that's what I decided to do with the help of the jailhouse lawyer. I began the process of divorce. It was complicated, messy. There were forms to be filled, documents to be signed. Jail was harsh, but it gave me the clarity I needed. It stripped away the illusions and laid bare the reality. It was here behind these iron bars that I understood the cost of trust, the price of betrayal and the power of self-worth. As I walked out of that jail, a free man, I left behind not just a life of confinement, but a life of lies, free from the shadows of betrayal, free from the chains of a broken marriage. Free to be Darren. Again, the real struggle was just beginning. It was time to face Carla, not as my wife, but as the woman who had been treating me. The divorce proceedings were complicated. Even though I had filed behind bars, I still had to face this woman, and Carla didn't make things easy. She played every card she had, from tearful pleas to angry accusations. She tried it all. But I had learned my lesson in jail. I had learned to see beyond the manipulation, to recognize the truth from the lies. She claimed she was sorry, that it was a mistake, but it wasn't a mistake. It was a conscious choice, a choice she had made considering its impact on me, on us. And it was this understanding that gave me the strength to fight back. The divorce was final. Everything went my way. I didn't have to pay any alimony, but she got to keep the house. I didn't give a damn about the house. The months that followed were a whirlwind of activity. I sold my business, deciding I needed a fresh start, and used the money to buy a smaller, more manageable home. It was a cozy place with enough room for me and my thoughts. Just as I was finding my footing in this new life, an unexpected call rattled my peace. It was Carla. Her voice was softer than I remembered, laced with an undercurrent of uncertainty. She was pregnant. She claimed the baby was mine. The first thing out of my mouth was, "I want a paternity test." It was the most logical course of action, a step toward the truth, regardless of what that truth might be. As I waited for the results of the paternity test, my life took on an air of suspense. Despite the unexpected upheaval, I decided to continue living as normally as possible. I continued attending therapy, working on my home, cooking meals, anything to keep the anxiety at bay. Well, the day I received the paternity test, as luck would have it, I was not the father. I told Carla right after the results, "Lose my damn number. Never ever contact me again. I am sorry for rambling, guys. But please, if you find yourself in this situation, just walk away." I look back on how I reacted. It was a huge mistake to let my emotions run away in a way. I am glad I found out that Carla cheated on me. But if I could do it over, I would have reacted a different way. I spent 60 days in jail. I didn't have a criminal record. It was my first offense on anything. I beat up the other guy pretty bad, broke his arm, dislocated his jaw and broke 2 of his ribs. I played football in college.